Mike, and this is a MakeCode Arcade tutorial. This tutorial is talking about creating a walking animation for your sprite. So, a couple things attached or linked in this video somewhere is this whole little code ditty I did right here, and in that is instructions that I put together, steps, and all the code that you're going to need to complete this. Also attached to that is something called Mr. Pickle's Walk Cycle. That is another character that I designed, and it has all of this fleshed out. So I'm only going to do walking right animation. That has up, down, left, and right, and idle all in it. So you can get an idea of what a character that has all the directions mapped onto it can look like. Cool. This is not Mr. Pickles, this is Tony Baloney. And in my last video, which I would suggest you check out before this one, I ran through what an idle animation looks like. So, there it is. Looking good. Do check that one out before this video because I'm going to kind of be building off of ideas. For instance, I've created all of the frames and the code that will set up the actual animation for this walk cycle, and I'm not going to walk through all that because that's boring and repetitive, and you don't need that in your life. So basically though, I am going to go through it real quickly. I've got the set walk right animation, and to walk right I've got an attach animation, so I'm attaching it to Tony, and then I've set up 4 frames of animation. Basically it's Tony Baloney's feet going like this, and then his arms are wiggling behind him, and you'll see that in just a minute what that looks like. Cool. Alright, so plop that in right at the bottom of the code that you already had in the on start block, and then you're going to go into game, the purple stuff, and find on game update. So this will run whatever code we put into this anytime the game updates. Cool. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to fish out from logic this block, which is an if blank statement then else. So that's going to do a couple things. It's going to say if something is true, then trigger this in the game. And basically what we want this to say is if I press right on the keypad or over here, then we're going to run this animation on Tony Baloney. Alright, but and then else, if I'm not pressing that, then I'm gonna have it set up so it runs the idle animation. So if I press right, then it's gonna run the animation. If I'm not pressing right, then it's gonna keep it on the idle animation. Cool. How that works gets a little more complicated, so I do again suggest that you open this thing up and follow along with these steps. I'm gonna do my best right now to explain it though. So the next thing you need is this other bit of logic code. It is 0 greater than 0, and you're going to plot that in instead of true. The next thing you need, so instead of the 0, we want to go into sprites, and you're going to fish out this one that says my sprite and then X, and you're going to plop that in instead of the first 0. So the default is my sprite, so you want to make sure instead of my sprite, it's tied to whatever you've named your sprite. In this case, the infamous Tony Baloney. And then instead of X, you want velocity. So real quick math stuff. X-axis, that runs left and right, this way, horizontally. Y-axis runs vertically. Alright, so I'm saying in this statement, the velocity of X, which basically means alright, so there's numbers associated with velocity. If it's a positive velocity, which means if I'm pressing right, so if Tony is moving this way to the right, then whatever. Does that make sense? It could also be If you want to trigger an up and down movement, you would place in Y velocity, but I want X velocity. And right now I'm saying if it is greater than 0, then we'll trigger this. So what we want it to trigger is the activation of our animation, which is down here. And this can be found in the animation blocks. You've used it before if you did the tutorial before this. We want to say activate walk right on Tony Baloney. So now, presumably, if I press right, yep, there goes the walking animation, and you can see his feet are pumping up and down and his arms are wiggling around. The problem is I just pressed right once and it's going to infinitely run for this loop because I haven't placed an else in. So right now it's just telling the computer or the processor, if I do this, then run this indefinitely. So he's just going to keep working his butt off, pumping his legs and wiggling his arms. And we don't want that. I want him to return to the idle anytime I'm not pressing right. So we're going to drop in the else, activate the idle, which you can pull from animation, or you can simply copy and paste from the code that we've already done in here. It's right here. Activate animation idle on Tony Baloney. So now when it updates, if I press right, he'll wiggle his arms, but then he'll stop once I let go. See? Let go, wiggle, let go. Cool. And that is the basics of adding an animation to a direction. So you can see if you wanted to add a left one, so if I pressed left and had Tony Baloney go this way, I'll click this little plus button and it will add another if else, and you're going to run the same way. So just copy and paste this one, right, and drop it in there. And you want to change it to, instead of greater than, right, you want less than. So that means if it's negative X velocity, which means if it's moving to the left on the screen, then we'll just do, you'd create a whole new animation for it. I'm just gonna attach that one. So now it's the wrong direction, but you can get a little sense of what I'm talking about. Now, if I press left, he'll animate also. But now he just moves once. Cool. And then if you wanted to do up, you do the same, but instead of X velocity, you would do Y velocity. So velocity V, Y, velocity Y. And positive is going to be up, negative is going to be down. So you would want greater than 0, up, less than down. Hopefully that makes sense. If you followed along though in just this, you've got your at least right walk animation down. Cool. Again, check out my Mr. Pickles one, and if you need ideas about where to find sprite animations or what that should look like, tons of people are doing it, including all the old video games for like the Super Nintendo and Nintendo. So check out something like 8-bit sprite sheet or 8-bit walk cycle, and that'll give you some ideas.